Hi guys, this is your girl Wakeji Kamore and welcome to Reflections by Wakeji Kamore. We are in the 21st chapter of 2nd Chronicles. If you have not read this chapter for yourself, please pause this recording. Let's just be obedient people who just do things the right way. Pause this recording, read the chapter for yourself. If you have an audio Bible, listen to the chapter, then get your own lessons, hear what is happening in this chapter, and then you can come and you can listen to my summary and you can listen to the lessons that I have picked from this chapter. Again, if you're listening to me for the very first time, please subscribe to my channel. Hata sijawambia subscribe for a very long time. So if you haven't subscribed, just subscribe. If you haven't hit the notification bell, hit the notification bell, because sometimes I forget to put the link for these audios on my status. Sometimes I forget to put the link on the WhatsApp for the subscribers. So please just hit the notification bell so that every single time I post something, you're notified. And then of course you allow notifications for YouTube to come, so then you can see the notifications every single time I put up an audio. All right. So chapter 21, what is happening in this chapter? Jehoshaphat, at the beginning of this chapter, we are told that Jehoshaphat dies. Jehoshaphat is a good king. Who was a good king? He worshipped the Lord. He went around towns teaching people about the law of God, the laws of God. He made a few mistakes here and there, and we saw the outcome of those mistakes. But overall, he was a really good king. And to just show us how good he was and how wise he was, at the end of his life, we see that he had put together all his sons. He gave them great inheritance. He gave them treasures. He gave them silver and gold, and gave each one of them a town of his own, like a fortified town of his own. And then he chose his firstborn, who was Jehoram. Jehoram is the firstborn of Jehoshaphat. He chose him to be the next king. And so Jehoram became the next king. So he was wise. He was like, Mr. Kiwatu wapigane after I die. I don't want my sons to fight. So I'm just going to put each one of you in a different town, in a different city, and give you those cities. But I've chosen the firstborn to be the king. But the rest of you get, each and every person, you get a city, you get a city, you get a city, you get silver and gold, you get treasures, you get, costly items, just so that everybody gets good inheritance. All right. But one of the things that we see is that when Jehoram becomes king, it is said that this is in verse 4. It says, but when Jehoram had become solidly established as king, he killed all his brothers and some of the other leaders of Judah. This guy was so insecure, this firstborn of Jehoshaphat. I don't know how you are such a good king and then your son is such a horrible person. Like, Missy Elewi, what is usually the disconnect there? Honestly, guys, please tell me, what is the disconnect? How can you be such a good king and then your son becomes such a horrible person? Like, honestly, sometimes the disconnect mimi unishinda. But I mean, we've seen people who are such good people even in the earth and in this world, and their sons end up being like such horrible people, and their children end up being killers. And you're like, where did you even get this? Your parents were such good people. How did you end up like this? Sometimes it's just the things that you as an adult choose to do, the things that you allow to take over you. One of the things that we see that Jehoram allowed to take over him is the insecurity. He was so insecure that one of his brothers would come and fight him and dethrone him as a king. So because of this insecurity, he decided to just protect this being a king, his throne, using the sword, and he killed all his brothers. That is such a horrible thing. As a matter of fact, we are told about the other horrible things that he did. What are the outcomes of those things? We're told that the Edomites went against him. They just decided, as you don't want to be led by you because you're a bad king. He tried to fight them and get them back, but he never won that battle. And the Edomites just became on their own. They were just like, as we are no longer going to be part of the Judah kingdom, and no longer going to be part of the southern kingdom, as we are on our own. And the Edomites are actually cousins to the Israelites. They were the sons of Esau. You guys remember Esau and Esau and his brother Jacob. So these were the sons of the Israelites, were the sons of Jacob. The Edomites were the sons of Esau. So yes, they were basically relatives. maybe a little bit distant, maybe cousins, but they were relatives, and they were part of the Judah kingdom. But they were like, as you don't want to be led by you, you're a horrible king, and they separated themselves, which is so sad. And even as the Edomite separated themselves, this guy just continued to be bad. He built pagan shrines. Please remember that he's a guy who had married Ahab's daughter. You remember when I was telling you guys that there's a son of Jehoshaphat who had married the daughter of Ahab? It was Jehoram. Jehoram is the one that had married the daughter of Ahab. And because the daughter of Ahab had come from a pagan idol-worshipping god, of course he influenced his husband, and he built mountains for people to go and sacrifice their children there. He built shrines. Shrines. He just built and encouraged pagan and idol worship, paganism and idol worship in Judah, which was really wrong. In verse 12, we see that Elijah writes a letter to Jehoram. Please, let's pause. Who is Elijah? Elijah is a prophet. Where is he based at this point? At this point, Elijah is a prophet based in Israel, who called Northern Kingdom. He was a prophet that was always speaking against Ahab as well, because Ahab was always doing something wrong. Ahab and his wife Jezebel. That couple. You remember Elijah prophesying or calling all the prophets, and there was a showdown where God actually lit fire, and then Elijah got really super scared because Jezebel said, "I'll kill you," and he went into hiding. That's prophet Elijah. Elijah akiwa tu huko Northern Kingdom anasikia tu zile vitu Jehoram is doing. He's hearing about the things that Jehoram is doing, and the Lord is speaking to him. And because he's not making a trip from the Northern Kingdom to the Southern Kingdom, he writes a letter to Jehoram and tells him, this is what the Lord God is saying. And he goes on to warn him and tell him, you have become as evil as the kings of Israel. Kwenye Elijah yuko, because the king of Israel at that time is the son of Ahab, and he is horrible. He's just as horrible as Ahab was. And he continues to warn him and tell him, because you have become such a horrible king, because you have become such an idol, you have killed your own brothers just so that you can protect your throne. I am going to make sure that your wives and your children are taken away from you, or they suffer, because this is the punishment that I have for you. Because the Lord was like, no, I don't want to destroy the dynasty of David. I don't want to destroy the dynasty of David, because I promised that someone from his family would always be king. And because the Lord didn't want to destroy that, he said, I will personally punish your children, your wives, and even you yourself. You're going to have a serious intestine disease that will even cause your intestines to come out. Like one day you're going to poop your intestines and you're going to die. Can you imagine pooping your intestines? Like, how do you even poop anyway? Let me not get graphic, but that is exactly what the Lord warned him. I like the fact that the Lord always warns you. Kabla akuja na punishment, like the consequences of the things that you're doing comes to you, the Lord will always warn you. And of course, he didn't listen. So the Lord stirred up some Philistines to come and fight against them. And they took all the valuables of the royal palace, including the Jehoram's sons and his wives, and only one son was left, which is son who was called Ahaziah. And Ahaziah is going to be the next king after Jehoram has died. Then Jehoram becomes sick. He had an incurable intestine disease, and the disease grew worse and worse and worse. And one day, his boils just came out, and he died in agony. What are the lessons that I'm learning from this chapter? One of the things that I have learned and picked up from Jehoram is that he's so insecure about losing the blessings of the Lord that he's willing to kill people for this. So first, the fact that he ended up being king is definitely a blessing from the Lord. It's not something he did for himself. It wasn't anything that he did that made him be born as the firstborn. And even as the firstborn, it was not a guarantee that he was going to be the king. We have seen many lastborns become king. The firstborns wameachwa tu hapo, secondborns, thirdborns, they have become king. And the firstborn has been left there. So the fact that he became king, the fact that he became the firstborn, and the firstborn that was chosen to be king was a blessing from the Lord. But he became so insecure and so engrossed about this blessing of the Lord that he wanted to protect it and to keep it for himself. And he was so insecure of losing it that he was willing to kill people for it. So my challenge for you is, do not become so obsessed with the blessings of the Lord, the things that you didn't do anything to achieve, that you're willing to lose your moral standing. You're willing to go against the Lord just so that you can keep that blessing. You cannot sustain the blessings of the Lord by being wicked. You cannot sustain the blessings of the Lord by being evil. This guy ruled for almost like the shortest time. He only ruled for 8 years. And 2 of those years he was sick with an intestine disease that caused him to poop his own intestines. Let's just say he ruled for 6, because 2 he was really, really unwell. And the ugonjwa just became worse and worse. Why? Because he was so focused on trying to sustain the blessings of the Lord that he did nothing to acquire, that he was willing to lose his moral standing. He was willing to kill people for it. So my challenge for you is, and even for myself, that we will not be focused, that we will not be so insecure about losing blessings of the Lord, things that we didn't even do anything to achieve, that we are willing to go against the Lord just so that we can keep the blessings that the Lord himself gave us, that we will be secure in knowing that the Lord has blessed us, that we didn't do anything to acquire those blessings, and that the Lord can help us sustain those blessings. That if we stay connected to the Lord himself, to the giver, to the blesser, that we will not lose those blessings, and instead those blessings will keep increasing instead of reducing. This guy ended up losing part of his kingdom because some tribes decided they're not going to be led by him, and they left the kingdom. He ended up losing his children, his wives, and he ended up dying himself because he thought that he could sustain the blessings of the Lord by doing evil. I pray that will never be any of us. Thank you so much for listening, and have a good day.